Get ready for an hour filled with conspiracies, UFOs, ghosts, the paranormal, legends, and myths from around the world. Chasing Prophecy Radio, where the paranormal is supernatural. With your hosts, Sean Kelly, Jenny Nicasio. Welcome to the Chasing Prophecy Radio, and here are your hosts, Sean and Jenny.
Good evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy. Keep the Keystone State clear across the globe. Welcome everyone to Radio Network 107.1 FM New Orleans, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. I'm Jenny Nicasio along with my co-host Sean Kelly. Remember to like us on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey Sean, are you ready for tonight's show?
I sure am, Jenny. I am so waiting for it.
We had a little technical problems, but we're up and ready.
Yes, we are. And I just had a day from Hades, you know what I mean? What kept me going was knowing that we are going to be on radio tonight. So, even though my day was bad, right? I knew I was happy because I'd be spending an hour with you.
Oh boy. Okay, that's great. Well, this crazy world we're living in, anything is possible. So, bullets are flying, people are dying in the streets, but let's not think about that tonight. So, this evening is open mic tonight. We will discuss anything paranormal. But before we get started, I'd like to remind our listeners to email us at chasingprophecyradio@gmail.com. So if you have anything paranormal, anything that happened to you, be it ghost story, UFO encounter, cryptic creature, aliens, creatures, tell us your story or send your caught on camera video or photo. We will credit you on our show. We'll share it with our viewers or listeners, any photo, and we'll put it on our Facebook Night Live, Friday Night Live too. So, excuse me. Moving on. I want to talk to you about our very first show. We discussed sleep paralysis. Remember that, Sean?
Sure do. Very interesting.
And the shadow people. Okay. Yeah. And we debated whether or not the shadow people were aliens or demonic presence or spirits. And could it possibly be that you always say the old hag theory, okay? I'm not really crazy.
Oh, I know it is.
I hate that word, hag. Okay. Well, tonight we're going to debate this with our experts and someone who has been haunted by the terrifying entities of the night. Okay. So, and I lean towards the phenomena as being an EBE, an extraterrestrial, have a hard time saying that, biological entity theory. What are your thoughts on that, Sean?
My thoughts is, if that's what you feel like it is, and God bless you. But to me, it's just a bad spirit hanging on your chest.
Okay, well, let's see. And this evening, Sean, we will be discussing Jerry's story. Jerry is a young man who has had strange visitors of the night since he was a child, and he's going to discuss his experience with shadow people and an unusual encounter he had late one night when he was a very young age. I think it was about 6 or 7. And from that moment on, he's had some unusual paranormal activities ever since then. And tonight we have on deck with us as a guest expert is Brian Sharpless, Ph.D., licensed clinical psychologist, visiting associate professor at the Department of Psychology at St. Mary's College of Maryland, visiting research fellow at the Department of Psychology, Goldsmiths, and the University of London. And he's the author of Psychodynamics, I might be saying that wrong, Therapy Techniques, Sleep Paralysis, and Unusual and Rare Psychological Disorders. But I want to just do a disclaimer right here. I want to let our audience know that this is strictly for entertainment purposes, and that he is not giving any medical or psychological advice. Brian, welcome back to Chasing Prophecy.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
Hey, Brian.
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen you since your first show.
I know. And we got, what would you say us, Sean? We got sort of promoted to FM 107.1 in New Orleans, and we're doing really
Congrats.
Good. Yeah, it's a great move, and I'm so glad we're here. So tell me what's going on with you, Brian.
Well, teaching with COVID, so it's a exciting day every day.
That
Yes.
I bet it is an exciting. I can imagine it. Everything's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, huh?
Mm.
And are you wearing a mask?
Yes, we're doing a combination of teaching mask to mask and simultaneously on Zoom.
Oh, geez.
So it's like teaching to two groups of people at the same time, and it's very complicated, but
Wow.
we're doing our best. We're
Oh,
doing our
that's
best.
crazy. Well, I want to tell you, last time we had you on, after the show, there was a lot of positive feedback on sleep paralysis and on that episode. And even after the show, a few of our listeners actually had sleep paralysis that night, which,
Yeah.
yeah, which leads me to believe, could it be self-induced? I mean, if you're thinking, could it feel like a lucid dreaming? Could you actually cause it?
Oh yeah, you can actually cause it in a lab. So
Oh,
there are cases. There are some Japanese researchers that hooked people up to EEGs so they could tell what stage of sleep they were in. And when they
wow.
entered REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which is the sleep you're most likely to dream in, you nudge them a little bit of wake, and every now and then you can get them to go straight into sleep paralysis, which is a combination of REM sleep mixed with wakefulness. So you have the dreams of REM sleep and the paralysis of REM sleep so that you don't act out your dreams going on while you're completely awake.
Wow, that's
Mhm.
crazy. Sean, what do you think about that?
Well, God bless them. God bless you, Brian, because I respect on what you are doing, the research and teaching about it. But to be honest with you, I can't see that. I have dealt with a lot of people where, you know, they claim and they see spirits. They don't see nothing else but that. And that's why they call it the old hag theory, because the people that they see that's sitting on their chest and can't move, okay, are ugly women. Okay.
He's
Uh-huh.
So
stuck on
that's where
that.
I'm
He's stuck
standing.
on that old hag, Brian.
Yeah, it's a very common belief in Newfoundland. So one of the fascinating things about sleep paralysis is people see different things in different cultures. So if you were in Zanzibar, you wouldn't see the old hag. You'd see a giant black bat that comes out of the jungle called the popobawa. If you were in San Lucia, you would see the kokma, which is actually an unbaptized infant. So each culture seems to put their own sort of stamp onto the same fundamental dream image, which is almost always scary in sleep paralysis. So dreams are usually only scary about 30% of the time, but in sleep paralysis, it happens about 80 to 90% of the time.
Wow.
And there's even a genetic contribution to it. So you can induce it in the lab, and you can identify people that would be more sensitive to having these experiences, and so they can actually be hallucinating right in front of you.
Oh.
So
Interesting.
I'm a bit more skeptical, obviously, about paranormal explanations. I respect everybody's beliefs, of course,
Good.
but
So you
yeah,
do
I
have
have
an
a
open
slightly
mind
different take
to.
on it.
That's cool that you do respect them. In fact, that was one of my questions I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, bud.
Oh yeah, as someone who 7 years after I started studying sleep paralysis, I actually had an episode myself, and I can attest to the fact that it is as vivid and as real as anything else you would see in your normal waking life. So whenever I hear somebody talk to me about being abducted by aliens, being visited by demons, I do not, my first assumption is not that they're lying.
Hmm.
I
Look,
believe that they believe it, and the phenomenon is so scary that I'm not surprised that some people really do believe that they're sort of being visited by paranormal entities.
uh, and those are the people that I deal with. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
But
what was that?
the hell's that?
Along with Brian, I want to welcome one of Sean's crew from Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and that's investigator Jason Lampietro. I probably messed it
How do you
up,
say
Jason.
it?
I am Pietro.
Okay, you can say it
It
again.
screams Italian. Hey, thanks for having me. This is great. I'm glad to be part of the show tonight.
Yeah, well, welcome to
Thank you
Chasing
for
Pro.
coming,
Thanks for
bud.
joining us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jason, what got you into the paranormal investigating?
Well, what got me into it was I can remember as far back as being a kid and just having like different experiences. And back then it was frightening, because you're a kid and you don't know what's going on. Whereas time went on. My wife and I, we bought a house, and this is where stuff really started getting interesting. We actually ended up having a poltergeist in our house, and didn't know how to handle that. So we got a hold of Sean. I met him through mutual friends of a band I was in. Mm-hmm. He comes over and with his crew, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and this is in 2013. And then they ended up cleaning the house and got rid of the bad spirit that was here. Mm-hmm. And from there on, I was just really intrigued, and I just wanted to have more. So then Sean actually started inviting me on investigations, and it kind of just unfolded from there to where I am today.
Wow, that's interesting. Haunted houses and poltergeists. You went to Lake Shawnee with Pittsburgh Paranormal Society, and Jason. Sean told me about that you saw something strange at Lake Shawnee by the swings. Want to tell us about that real quick before we get on to Jerry?
Yeah, sure. Well, there was the story of a little girl that had gotten killed on the swings that were there. So me and another investigator were running an EVP session, and then we decided to go to another area because we weren't really getting a lot. Well, I'd forgotten something back near the swings, so I was like, hey, man, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab my, whatever I forgot. And I go grab what I had, and I turn around, and I saw this girl pop out from behind this tree right next to the swings in what looked like an orangish red kind of dress. And I was totally stunned. I was like, wow, I saw it with my naked eye. And so when I caught up with the group, we knew about the little girl, and I mentioned what I saw because I didn't know what color dress she was wearing, and a couple other people did. They're like, holy moly, you actually saw her because she was wearing like a dark pink dress, which would correlate with the orangish reddish I saw because it was nighttime. So that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, was it a modern dress? Was it a dress that had like some kind of a time stamp to it?
It looked older. I think it was probably like a 40s or 50s era.
40s or 50s?
Kind of style dress. Yeah, because she just poked out from around this tree. I saw her, and then she just vanished.
And you didn't get it on camera? You didn't get it?
No, because I was going back to get a piece of gear or whatever. I left where we were at and then head back to the new spot. And unfortunately, I didn't get it on camera.
Yeah, so did you think it was an apparition? You definitely think it was something that or was it just somebody that happened to be there that snuck up on behind you?
No, it was definitely an apparition. I know I've seen apparitions before throughout my life, and there was nobody else around.
Well,
they were all on the other side of the lake, and I was
cool.
Totally astounded. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
And you think it's haunted then? That. So you legitimately think it's legit. It's haunted.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. That's cool. We'll have to get out there sometime again. Well, without further ado, I want to welcome our special guest this evening. We're going to call him Jerry, and he will remain anonymous. And I'm going to welcome him, Jerry, and I want to thank you for coming to tell your story and your experiences for our panel, for Brian and Jason, and we just want to welcome you. Jerry?
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I
lost you there.
It.
Hey, Jerry, how are
Welcome.
you?
Good.
Good. And before we start the discussion, and I want everyone listening at home, in your car, Facebook, anywhere, YouTube, to check your coat at the door and listen to Jerry with an open mind. Okay, so let's start at the beginning and tell us your earliest memory for Jason. And let him tell the story, the first one, and then you guys can go ahead and throw the questions at him. Okay, guys?
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, do you guys want to know my first sleep paralysis or first time I've seen the shadow person?
I would like to know about the shadow person if it's okay.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to say I was around 10 or 12. And I was over at my dad's house, and I want to say it was about 9 or 10 a.m. I was sleeping, and I thought I woke up, and I could hear my dad talking on the phone in the downstairs. And the way the bed was set up, my right side was against the wall, and by my feet was the door to the right of the bed. And I'm laying there, just relaxing, and then I see a dark figure walk through the door, come right up to me, and kind of lean down towards me. And then I woke up. But then I thought it was my dad who came in. Just, it didn't register in my mind at the time what really happened. But then I could hear my dad downstairs still talking. And then I kind of sat there for a moment, not able to really process at the time what really happened. That was the first time I ever experienced it.
Okay. And how did you feel?
At first, confused. I wasn't necessarily scared at the time. I was more kind of put off and questioned what really happened and if it was just a dream or not.
Okay. And did you experience the shadow person ever again after that day?
Yeah, so I want to say most of my teenage years into college, and then recently in July, as I was reacquainted with him per se.
Was something stressful going on in your life or any time that the shadow man appeared, were you going through a stressful time? Were you anxious or any kind of
any changes, things like that?
So the first time, no, I can't say that I was stressed or anything. And then the few times leading up to that, I definitely, not that I can tell. I mean, you get stressed as a teenager and growing up as an adolescent. Going through college, just nothing like out of the ordinary, I should say, that started it. Now, I do say this, and you guys can give me your opinion on this one. When I was about 10, before I started seeing this, I was reading a lot about astral projection and deep meditation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I was doing that for, I'd say probably about 6 months, trying to get into that Zen state, being able to, try it. So I don't know if that's what maybe elicited everything or not, but.
Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I just did a study late last year on what people actually see during episodes of sleep paralysis in terms of the figures. And so I had a sample of college students that get it. About 28% of college students experience sleep paralysis at least once, primarily due to, as he mentions, stress can be a factor, disrupted sleep, because, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I might be getting up for an 8 a.m. class. Tuesday and Thursday, maybe a 11:20 class, so you sleep till 10. And so anything that really disrupts your sleep can make sleep paralysis more likely. So in the sample, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, we found that the most common reported being during sleep paralysis was actually shadow people, yeah, which was pretty fascinating. And before I actually got into sleep paralysis, I wasn't even familiar with shadow people.
Wow. What about you, Jason?
I feel like it could be a kind of like numerous different things. Like he's talking about how it started when he was a child and it's still happening up to today. The part I'm thinking about is he was talking about diving into astral projection kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get involved with that, you're really starting to open yourself up to the paranormal world. I actually tried it myself for a while, and I was successful one time, and I made it across my room, and as soon as I saw myself, that was it. But when you're dabbling into things like that, you're really open. So I feel like it could be, a spirit that's just been following him because they know, or it could be a past relative, just let them know they're around. As long as it's nothing malignant or bad, it's really nothing to worry about in my opinion,
Jerry, you want to So, have you had any other experiences prior to this that you would like to talk to, so our panel can try to figure out what it was?
Honestly, not that I can remember. I would say that most of my paranormal experiences happened probably after that. I did have an experience with a light when I was probably 5 or 6, I want to say.
What was that experience? Go ahead and tell us. Don't let you don't have to hide here. You're in a safe place. No one's judging.
No,
it's a cool.
Yeah, I love sharing these
Great,
stories.
we want to hear your story.
So, like, any question, like, seriously, feel free to ask. I will tell you, whether it's the sleep paralysis, the shadow person, or what I guess I'll tell you guys now. So when I was around 6, we'll just say 6 because I can't remember exactly. I was laying in my bed at night, and I was sound asleep, and I was woken up to a extreme bright light. Only way I can describe it is like if someone had like a massive LED like spotlight that like shone through my entire room. And this is when like LEDs weren't around. I don't think LED lights came out for a few years after this incident even happened. So it was just too bright to be like a car, a regular flashlight, or anything. And this is when I was like deathly afraid of aliens growing up. So like my instinct was I'm either was just abducted by aliens or there's aliens in my room. So I remember throwing the covers over my head and like debated, should I run to my mom's room or should I just stay here until I fall back asleep? And I ended up running into my mom's room. And I didn't see anything after that, but I still kind of question ever since, like, what was that? Whether it was aliens, whether it was paranormal, whether it was spiritual. I can definitely tell you I was like on a scale to 1 to 10, terrified was like a gajillion. So it was
gajillion.
Did you see anything besides the light?
No, I think because my initial instinct was to cover my head with my covers. And I just remember like just sweating profusely and like shaking because I honestly thought aliens were in the room. Because that's when a lot of times I was having, a lot of nightmares about like aliens or other things. When I was a kid, I used to have a lot of nightmares, like a lot of nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
That's so strange for being a young, like a child to have nightmares like that. What about our panel? Question, can you help them figure out what this is? This light?
Brian?
Well, I think in general, it's actually very, very common for kids to have nightmares.
Really?
So absolutely. In terms of adults, we can get something called nightmare disorder, where we have lots of nightmares that end up usually involving feeling of being chased and things like that, and it can cause people a lot of problems. But yeah, they're very common in childhood. And so, a nightmare is another REM behavioral event. Mm-hmm. So I think that could be consistent with some of the things I've been talking about. In terms of the light, how long did the light go on for? Was it a really bright flash? Was it a long beam?
It was I would have to say like a really bright flash. Like imagine someone just turning on a spotlight for about a second and then turning it off.
Gotcha. And so when you threw your covers over, was the light gone?
Yeah, it was gone.
Yeah. Well, in sleep paralysis, and again, I'm not diagnosing you. And first of all, I'm really just so pleased that you're feeling comfortable to open up to a national audience about this. I think that's really important.
Yes, very much.
It's very brave.
Hopefully, it'll help somebody having the same.
Yeah. One of the fascinating things about sleep paralysis that dovetails into some of the ways we work that into mythology is that as soon as movement returns, so as soon as the paralysis ends, the hallucinations disappear like that. So if you look back at how people have described being visited by vampires, for instance, you oftentimes hear about them disappearing into mist, If you read like the Malleus Maleficarum and witch hunting books back from the 15th century, you see a lot of ideas that witches could disappear at will as well. So you oftentimes have people that will see really scary things, and as soon as they jump up or maybe get themselves out of bed, it's just gone. Wow. Which is really scary. Yeah.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah,
Jen,
I'm gonna.
About our new
I'm getting to it. I just didn't want to interrupt them. Sorry, I have to interrupt you guys. We got to take a quick break. I like to thank our this episode's sponsor. So, if you got a ghost, who are you going to call? You're going to call Phantom Hounds Paranormal Group. They're based in Beaver County, PA, and that was started by 3 paranormal enthusiasts in 2013. They've been around all over in their pursuit of all things spooky and never turn down a chance to look into new places. So if you or someone you know has something they cannot explain going on, Phantom Hounds would love to hear from you. Like them on Facebook and check out their website, www.phantomhounds.com. Okay, guys, sorry about that, but we had to put in our plug for our sponsor, and so glad they did sponsor us. And if anybody would like to sponsor us, feel free to give us an email. Okay, so let's start back to where we were. I'm sorry about that, but getting back to the light. So, Jerry, do you think that the sleep paralysis started after the light, or before? Did you have it before the light?
It was definitely after. Like I said before, the sleep paralysis started when I first saw the shadow person when I was at my dad's house.
Okay, so you know what else I was thinking? What do you guys think about this? Okay, let's just go off to a different realm. Okay, let's just put the sleep paralysis in the corner, and let's think he saw a light in his room. After the light, he started to have the shadow people. And then anything else, Jerry, that you want to say that happened that you want to add to this? Because you've had some really, in our discussions on emails, you discussed it, a lot of things that you see that other people may not see.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that after that incident, or my dad's, whether I was, opened to the paranormal or, just something happened in that event. But after that, I started to see shadows, just in plain daylight. I've experienced feeling touched. I've seen dead pets from like my wife. I saw, the first day that I ever met her and went to her house, I should say. It was in the back of my head that her cat had just recently passed, but I wasn't thinking at the time, and I was passing her room, and I saw a cat, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you had this cat, and I described it, and I just remember her staring me in the eyes like, they're not here anymore. I've seen objects move in our house where I grew up, but I think the big, if I had to pinpoint one biggest paranormal to me, would be I would honestly have to call it a haunting from the shadow person that I met back at my dad's. That's just me, that's just what I call it, because I know what I lived through as growing up. When I was growing up, especially got really bad in high school. I want to say around 9th and 10th grade. I actually had insomnia for probably 6 months because just about every night I was having sleep paralysis and seeing the shadow person. And, over the years, it became more like a sense of terror. Like the first time I described it at my dad's, I didn't feel afraid. But as the years went on, and as the more times it occurred, the presence, like of an evil presence, became stronger and stronger. And it actually, to me, got almost violent. Like the sleep paralysis would become violent. I would feel like I was being thrashed in my bed. I would hear, there was a point where I could hear it speak. And that just went on for years.
Wow.
Have you experienced now that you are married, does your wife experience any of this?
There was, not recently, but when we were dating, she believes that she did have sleep paralysis once when we were traveling somewhere. We were in a hotel, and I left to go get, I don't know, say breakfast or something, and she thought I came back into the room, and then she woke up and kind of realized, like, no, he's not here. He's at the store right now.
Okay.
So that was her one experience of something very similar.
Now, does your wife see paranormal, like spirits or anything else like that?
Yeah, she's had a few experiences, but nothing like, I guess if I had to compare it, nothing similar to what I've experienced, but she's had hers.
Okay.
But this follows
Jason,
you. It follows you around, huh? It doesn't just stay at one place. It comes with you.
Yeah. I mean, it was mostly, I would say mostly at my parents' house where we grew up. But I did have a few instances where I was over my wife's her family house, sleeping over, where I thought I saw it while having sleep paralysis there. But it was mostly at my house, my parents' house, and then it wasn't until, I would say, July of, not over this summer where I saw it again, but this was at my new apartment. But that's a whole weird experience in its own.
Okay.
That was really bizarre.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. So, Jason, I think Jason has a question, and Brian, you can go ahead and share your thoughts when he's done.
Yeah, I have a question. Whenever you witness this shadow figure that's been following you around for so long, like, how do you feel, like, physically and emotionally at that moment? Like, can you recall, like, any, like, feeling drained, just completely out of energy, or angry?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most of the time it was, just terror, like I was seeing something not of this world, like evil, right in my room. So just this horrible sense of fear and terror. And then when I would wake up, I would just be completely drained of energy, just wiped out. And that's like what I said during high school. I could not sleep. I was just not sleeping, and it was just every night where it would cause me to lose sleep to the point where I had no energy and I was falling asleep in class and stuff.
Okay, because to me, in my opinion, it sounds like there's an entity that's attached to you personally, especially being that it's following you around from place to place. But the big thing is, you feel those feelings of terror, fear, and everything like that. It feeds off that. That's like a gourmet plate for it. So that way, when you wake up, you're just completely drained. You're tired. You're falling asleep in class. Probably the best thing to do, from my own personal experiences, especially, is if you stand up to it and literally tell it, like, stop following me. You're not allowed, to be near me. You're not welcome. 9 times out of 10, they will go. But if they don't, then we have to look into, further steps to make it leave permanently.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I did, for the longest time I tried. I tried calling out to Jesus to help, but it seemed that every time I did that, it got worse.
Really?
Yeah, they definitely don't like that, I don't think. So It sounds like it's probably something that's not very friendly, honestly.
Yeah, no, if I had to put a name to it, I would call it a demon.
Wow.
That's me.
Okay.
Wow. Brian, we need some. What do you have to say?
I'd probably see it a little bit differently.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, so the one possibility is there's something following him around. The other possibility is he is always with him. So he's bringing along to all the various places his own experiences. And it sounds like these are really terrifying events that end up disrupting your sleep, that end up making you worry, that end up making you upset. All these things make disrupted sleep more likely, which in turn makes sleep paralysis more likely. And so if you're primed to go to bed and it's a scary place and you're worried about when you're going to see these figures again, all those things would potentially make them more likely to happen. So being a skeptic, I look for ways to obviously understand things that wouldn't take recourse to paranormal phenomenon. So if we have a way of understanding that doesn't involve malevolent entities, I would probably err on the side of that. The burden of proof would be on sort of the more extraordinary of the claims.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm a very scientific person. At first, I was very skeptical. I thought, I'm just dreaming. That's what it is. But as, more paranormal things happened to me, and as this continued, I kind of leaned towards this is probably something supernatural and not something that I can explain scientifically. It's just, to me, it was just too bizarre. And then when I started reading up on it, it was, fitting a lot of descriptions to a lot of things. I've read decent amount of demonology. I've read a lot about astral projection. I've read a lot about, hauntings and paranormal experiences. And it seems to fit that more than it would, the scientific method and just trying to figure it out as, this is a disruption of my REM sleep and I'm manifesting these through subconscious thoughts, but that's just how I look at it.
Now, when you were reading the books on demonology and, as you were saying, being a scientist, being scientific, did you come up with a conclusion?
As far as like what I think it was,
what you experienced, yeah.
If you would have to ask, if I would have to be honest, I honestly think that whether when I was reading or trying to astral project, or if I believed I actually did, because there was one time that I actually thought I did, similar to Jason, I think it was, who was explaining that story. I would have to say it was an attachment to a demon. In the best way I could describe it is if, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the movie Insidious.
Sure.
Yes.
So when I first saw that movie, I didn't really know what it was about. And when I started paying close attention, I started freaking out like internally at the theaters because I was like, wait a minute, this is really similar to what happened to me. And then when I found out that the kid or the main character astral projected when he was a kid and had the old hag attached to him, I was like, I remember being in the theater, just chills up and down my body because I was like, this is too similar to what happened to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have an idea. This is just my opinion. I want to see what you guys think about it. So, when said he was about 6 years old or 8 years old, and we saw that bright light, what do we think about the theory that it's possible that a spirit came over through a portal, and that was the start of it all? The flash of light is when the spirit crossed over, and then later on started following him around.
I'm proud of you, buddy. That was a good question.
Thanks, Sean.
That's a good analogy. I don't know. I mean, when I think of a bright light, I don't think of anything that's like demonic.
Malevolent.
Yeah, malevolent. I don't.
That's our word for today.
That's our word for today. I don't feel that. A light is something good. I mean, I don't.
Whenever you go through a portal, whenever I see portals in a house, okay, there is light that comes through. Now, not all good spirits come through that portal. There's a lot of bad ones that come in.
Okay, because there's I'm trying to think. Yeah, I could see that if somebody passed on and didn't want to be there, like wanted to get out of there, maybe, I don't know. But you deal with portals when you see them in hauntings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. It could be. But you can also, people who claim that they were abducted see a light too.
Possibility. But I'm learning to like aliens, Jenny. I'm learning to like aliens.
I can't help it. I like aliens. Okay. I don't.
Nothing wrong with that.
What's that?
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay. You spoke of your apartment, and you said that's a whole nother story. What happened there? That do you have the same experiences, or were they worse?
So this was probably, I've had a handful of experiences that made me question a lot, and really just put me beyond the level of being terrified. This was definitely the one of the top 5, I would have to say. So, prior to this, I haven't seen that figure since, call it, undergrad. So probably, I don't even know. If I had to guess, say 5, 6 years. So it's been a while. And, I go to bed and I'm having a dream, and I know when I'm about to get sleep paralysis, a lot of the times, like, I can feel it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it happens while I'm dreaming. So I'm not where I am. So I somehow was dreaming that I was in my bathroom at my mom's house. We had a bathroom upstairs next to the beds. And I'm laying on the floor there. And then I stand up and I look at the mirror. It's a big mirror, probably, like 8x8, huge. You can see everything above the sink. And then I get this sense, like a familiar sense of something. Like there was something I knew that I've known for a while that was around me. And then the whole scene became very dark and misty. And then behind, like if I'm looking at the mirror, behind me is would be our shower that has like a glass door on it. And I mean, it's going to sound nuts, but this is just what I saw. It was Jesus Christ on the crucifix appeared in the shower behind me. And then he started dripping blood, blood just pouring everywhere.
Whoa,
and this is when I started freaking out. And then all of a sudden, the dark figure, the shadow person that I have not seen for years, appeared out of nowhere, from the mirror into my face. And I woke up, but when I woke up, I jumped out of bed, and it was like I could not get the image of the shadow person out of my head. It just would not go away. And the feeling that I was, I guess, old feelings of being tormented, just this brutal terror, sense of helplessness just would not go away. It was almost like my brain was stuck at just viewing the shadow person. And I, had my hands over my face, and I was telling my wife, like, turn on the lights, turn on the lights, turn on the lights. And then I just bawled, like broke down, because I was so terrified, and it just would not go away. And I had the biggest headache of my life. Like it almost felt like I was having like an aneurysm.
Whoa. Brian, thoughts?
Brian.
Yeah, it sounds like a really scary dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A scary dream.
Well, I don't hear the paranormal side to that. So, we've all had terrifying dreams with really bizarre imagery that can leave us emotionally impacted. I just saw a patient today who is not a person that would cry and bawled for quite some time after experiencing a really profound dream. So, that's part of the dream world. It's very imagistic. It's very intense. We don't have a lot of abstract thinking in it, and everything is so rich and so real. And when it's a nightmare, it can be all that much more profoundly scary. So it sounds
Brian,
like he was asleep the entire time, correct? During that event with seeing Jesus, and
you were
yeah,
asleep?
I mean,
yeah.
To me, with my prior experience and knowledge, I can absolutely understand why someone of your caliber and the way of thinking would go to that. If you ask me what happened, I would almost say that I would astral projected back to my parents' house, and experienced that, and then due to the fear was able to come back. So I don't know if Sean or Jason have any thoughts on that, because they seem to be.
That's very possible.
I feel like that these moments of sleep paralysis, this is just my thoughts. When you're in sleep paralysis, to me, you're just basically, your body is just a pool of energy just laying there that's helpless at that current moment. So whatever this entity or shadow man, whatever it is, I feel like when you go into those sleep paralysis, it's really feasting in free energy, basically. And I feel like that's why it might be more pronounced, and it's really making itself known at those current times.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of astral projection you guys know, but there are, from what I read, there's 3 main techniques to get out, and one starts when you're falling asleep, one starts when you've woken up from sleep and you're trying to go back to sleep, and the easiest method, from what I read, is when you're having sleep paralysis is the easiest time to get out.
Mm.
So I know.
Yeah, there's the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, I know, like, it's connected.
They also say with the astral projection stuff, when you were researching, they talk about this thing called the silver cord as well.
Yeah.
Which is your direct lifeline back to your body, because when you astral project, now your body is literally just a vessel that whatever's on the other side, you may not even know it's there, is trying to get in.
Yeah.
So you cannot leave that silver cord. That's your direct line, like I said, back to your body, and you do not want to follow whatever's on the other side, because it just leads to bad news.
Jerry.
Yeah.
I had a lot of astral projecting myself, and a long time ago. And what I did I would have one in, like, almost every day, every other day. And before, I was so scared of them too. But you know what? It worked for me was I would ask God, just let me sleep tonight and protect me. And usually I slept good. So, and I say that every night, even now, and I sleep good.
I wish that would have worked when, the bulk of it was happening. Because, like I said, I tried every night, because I'm telling you, there was nights where I'd wake up, have sleep paralysis, see the thing, wake up, go back to sleep, and they would just happen overnight. I think my longest sleep paralysis session, from just looking at the clock, was over an hour. But like I think whatever it was feeded as much as it could off of me for like the years that it was with me, and then it was just done. I think it just left. Okay. And then for some reason, whether it actually came back or I just had this horrible memory of it when I was at my apartment here, it just kind of just got up and left and didn't see it again.
Okay.
Jerry, did you suffer the migraines before all this happened, or afterwards, or it was simultaneous?
That's a good question. I never actually thought about that. If I think about it, I would have to say after it all started.
Wonder if they're related.
I think
changes in sleep and stress, all those things can lead to migraines and make them more likely. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, what do you think it is? The light and shadow. What do you think it means?
I think the light. I can't even tell you. Maybe aliens. Maybe. Because I just at the time I was deathly afraid of them, so my mind will always go to alien.
Well,
I mean,
think
the
so
classic
too.
flash of light, like maybe someone else was abducted in my house and I just so happened to see the light come back.
Well, maybe your brother, or you have any sisters?
Yeah.
Brother,
Yeah,
sister?
my brother, maybe they took him.
Well, you can joke about it now, but the time when you were just a little boy, probably if you were 6 years old, it had to be terrifying.
Yeah, even throughout high school, it just was.
It stayed with you.
Hated going to sleep.
You hate it? That's so sad. That's terrible.
No, but it makes sense.
That kind of experience, like the same things as Jerry.
What was that, Jason?
No, I was just going to say, like, with what Jerry's going through, like, I remember when I talked about the poltergeist before getting really involved with paranormal, before everything went total chaos here, basically. Like, I just remember, I had a lot of headaches at the time. I was always drained and just always felt angry and anxious for no reason. Like, I could have the best day in the world, but there was a portal in my house and this bad spirit had come through and it just started feasting on pretty much everything. Yep. And then it eventually led to, poltergeist level, and then we had to do what we had to do to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. So I can really relate with Jerry on what he's talking about from a personal level, from, I think it was 2013.
Yep. Yeah, it was a crazy one. Hey, Brian, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Now, with you studying sleep paralysis, how far had it taken? Have you reached new plateaus on what you're studying about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just me. There's lots of folks that are looking at this, but they've identified a lot of the things that sort of go into it. So if you look at people that are being brain scanned while they have sleep paralysis, it is a mixture of REM sleep going on when people are awake. So a colleague of mine in England found out there was a genetic contribution. There was a little mutation on the PER2 gene that people have that makes people more likely to have sleep paralysis. And you can actually stop it through certain behavioral techniques, as well as through taking certain drugs that actually suppress REM sleep. So people that might have long time sleep paralysis, seeing really scary things over and over, if they take certain medications, that will actually reduce it because it suppresses REM sleep.
Now, these medications that you talk about, are they narcotic or non-narcotic?
Non-narcotic. So if you give someone like an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, in very low doses, so you wouldn't even need to give the dose that you'd use to treat anxiety or depression. And one of the side effects of it is that it ends up suppressing REM sleep. So when people take the drug, they report having less dreams. For some people, that's, they don't like that. But you could actually use the drug's side effect as the effective treatment to actually reduce sleep paralysis.
Jen, it's getting close to the witching hour, buddy.
Yeah, I know. So, Jerry, you might want to look into that.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
If it can help you, that would be great. Okay.
And the best thing for people that have sleep paralysis to do is really to get on a good sleep cycle and make sure they go to bed, wake up the same time every night, and really take care of themselves. No drinking caffeine or alcohol before bed, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's tough, right?
Yeah, it is tough.
Well, it's
Who doesn't
something to think
like a good
about
drink?
that. That's good. Jerry, you should think about that. But like Sean said, it is that time again. I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight.
Yes.
And also our sponsor.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank
Jerry,
you to Jerry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jerry.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
We wish
Thank you, Jerry.
well,
Thank you,
and
Brian.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes.
Thanks
Brian.
for
Everybody.
sharing your experiences. And Brian, it was great to have you on the show again, where we can get together again. But we want to thank you. And where can someone get a hold of your books?
You can find them on Amazon. Just Google my name. I'm also giving a talk on the 18th on insomnia and what to do about insomnia. So just go to profs, like the abbreviation for professor, and pints.com.
Absolutely.
And my website is briansharpless.com.
Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll always give you a call.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much.
And Jason, thanks for lending your experience too.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And best of luck to you, Jerry. Hopefully everything gets resolved for you.
Yes,
Thanks,
absolutely.
And Sean, tell our audience where someone can get in contact with you if they're interested in having a paranormal investigation.
They can contact us on our Facebook page, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Leave me a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Great. And I welcome everyone to continue the conversation and join us Friday night live on Pittsburgh Paranormal Chasing Prophecy's Facebook page at 9 Eastern Time. Please check out my author page, J.E. Nicasio. My trilogy From the Sky is available, and all my books are available at Amazon.com. Next week is going to be a good show, but I'm not going to tell you because it's a secret. So hope you can join us, and remember to like us on Facebook and Instagram, and check out and subscribe to ChasingProphecyRadio.com and our YouTube channel. We will look forward to your ghostly stories. So don't forget to email our email at ChasingProphecyRadio@gmail. And stay safe, and good night, everyone. And thank you for tuning in to Chasing Prophecy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.